My fiancé took a break to reignite things with her ex, so I sold the house, canceled the wedding, and erased her entire exit plan. I'm 36, male, a mechanical engineer working for a solid renewable energy firm. My wife, ex-wife now, Emma, 34, female, was a successful event planner with a knack for turning even the simplest ideas into grand affairs. We had a bright, funny 5-year-old daughter, Mia, who loved dinosaurs and insisted on wearing her explorer hat everywhere she went. People would see us together and smile, probably thinking we were the ideal family. For a long time, I believed that too. Emma and I met 7 years ago at a green tech expo in San Francisco. I was there presenting a prototype for a solar-powered energy grid, and she was managing the event. My younger brother, Aaron, 34, male, introduced us. Aaron was always the charismatic one in the family, the guy who could charm his way out of a speeding ticket or talk his way into a very important person section he didn't belong in. At the time, he was dabbling in real estate and working on what he called his empire. He and Emma had hit it off while working together on some charity gala a few months earlier, so he figured we'd get along too. "Josh, this is Emma," he said, flashing his signature grin. "She's like way too good for you, but hey, maybe you'll get lucky." I laughed it off. We spent the rest of the evening talking about everything: our favorite movies, why she loved planning events, the solar project I'd been working on for years. I remember thinking, how is this woman even real? Aaron gave me a nudge as we were leaving. "You're welcome," he said, as if he'd already won some imaginary matchmaking trophy. Emma and I started dating shortly after that night. It was fast and easy, too easy maybe, but I didn't question it at the time. She had this way of making every moment feel special, like life was one big celebration waiting to happen. It wasn't long before I fell hard. Aaron was thrilled for us. "You finally found someone who can keep up with you," he'd say. Though looking back, it was a strange comment coming from him. He was always around, helping me plan surprises for Emma, hyping me up whenever I doubted myself. When I proposed to her a year later, Aaron was the one who went with me to pick out the ring. He even suggested proposing during a weekend getaway to Napa at a vineyard she'd mentioned loving. Life after the wedding felt like a dream. We bought a small but cozy house on the outskirts of San Jose. Emma threw herself into building her event planning business while I worked my way up at my firm. She even designed Mia's nursery herself, filling it with pastel rainbows and stuffed animals that matched a theme I still don't fully understand. Aaron was always around. He'd pop by for dinner or help with odd jobs around the house. I'll admit, it felt good to have him so involved in our lives. But if I'm being honest, there were moments that felt off. Sometimes when Aaron and Emma were together, their jokes seemed a little too inside, like they were sharing a secret I wasn't in on. Other times Aaron would show up unannounced, acting a little too comfortable in our home. I remember once when Emma and I were arguing about her overspending on some party decorations, Aaron walked in and immediately sided with her. "She's just trying to make life beautiful, Josh. Lighten up." It didn't feel right, but I brushed it off. Aaron was my brother. Emma was my wife. I had no reason to doubt either of them. Then Mia came along, and everything changed. If I thought life was busy before, it became a whirlwind after she was born. Late nights feeding her, early mornings rushing to work, and weekends spent trying to catch up on sleep. It all blurred together. Emma seemed to thrive in the chaos, juggling her business and motherhood like a pro. Meanwhile, Aaron became the fun uncle, swooping in with toys and treats, giving us a much-needed break. I thought we were a team, the three of us. Aaron had always been my rock growing up. After our parents died, he took on the role of the protector, even though I was technically the older brother. I trusted him with my life, just like I trusted Emma. Now I see how blind I was. I didn't question why Aaron knew so much about Emma's business trips, or why she would sometimes mention things to him that she hadn't told me. I didn't wonder why Aaron always seemed to know exactly what she wanted for her birthday, or why he'd go out of his way to help her with things I didn't even know she needed help with. I was too busy working, too busy trying to be the perfect husband and father to notice the cracks forming right in front of me. People always say hindsight is 20/20, and I hate how true that is. If I'd paid closer attention, maybe I would have seen what was really going on. Maybe I would have asked more questions, dug a little deeper. But at the time, all I saw was what I wanted to see: a happy family, a loving wife, and a brother I could count on. I had no idea how much of it was a lie. Things started to unravel about 2 years ago. Emma started spending more time on her event planning business, which I thought was normal. It had really taken off, and she was booking bigger clients, more elaborate events, and even landing out-of-town gigs. At first I was proud of her. She'd always talked about wanting to be independent and successful, and she was finally making it happen. But then the work started taking over. It was the little things at first. She used to always tell me about her day, funny stories about clients or how her plans for an event came together. That stopped. If I asked how her day went, she'd just say, busy, and leave it at that. When I pushed for details, she'd say she was too tired to talk about work. I figured she just needed a break. Then came the girls' weekends. She told me her friends were planning spa getaways to unwind from the stress of work, and honestly, I didn't think twice about it. Emma didn't take a lot of time for herself, and I figured she deserved a break. But after the first few trips, it became more frequent. Every couple of months, there'd be another one. I started noticing other things too. She was glued to her phone constantly, but if I asked who she was texting, she'd just say it was a client or Clara, her best friend. She never used to hide her screen from me, but now she'd tilt it away or step out of the room to take calls. I told myself it was just part of her job. After all, clients could be demanding. Our intimacy took a hit as well. Emma had always been affectionate, but suddenly she seemed distant. I remember one night she came to bed in this really expensive lingerie I'd never seen before. She looked amazing, but when I made a move, she just said she was too tired and rolled over. That became the norm. She was either too tired or not in the mood, and after a while I stopped trying. I told myself it was just a phase, that we were both busy with work and Mia, and we'd get back to where we were. The thing that really started eating at me, though, was how she seemed to talk to Aaron more than me. They were always close, but now it felt like he knew more about her life than I did. If she was stressed about a project, Aaron would show up with a box of her favorite dessert, or take Mia out for the afternoon so Emma could relax. It was thoughtful, sure, but I couldn't shake this nagging feeling that I was being pushed out of my own marriage. There was this one night that really stuck with me. We were hosting a dinner party for some of her clients, and Aaron came over early to help set up. I was in the kitchen slicing vegetables when I overheard them laughing in the living room. Emma said something like, "You always know how to make me feel better," and Aaron replied, "That's what I'm here for." It shouldn't have bothered me, but it did. I told myself I was being paranoid, that they were just close because we were all like family. Still, it nagged at me enough that I brought it up to Emma later. "Do you think you lean on Aaron too much?" I asked her while we were getting ready for bed. She looked at me like I'd just asked if the sky was green. "What are you talking about? He's your brother, he's just helping out. You should be grateful." I felt like an idiot for even mentioning it, so I dropped it. But the uneasy feeling never really went away. Aaron, for his part, was always there with advice whenever I confided in him. If I mentioned that Emma seemed distant, he'd say, "She's under a lot of pressure, just give her space." If I complained about the lack of intimacy, he'd laugh and say, "Welcome to married life, bro." He had this way of making me feel like I was overthinking everything, and I believed him because he was Aaron, my brother, my best friend. But it wasn't just Aaron. I started noticing Emma's behavior with Mia too. She'd always been a great mom, but now it felt like she was using Mia as a buffer. If we were having a tense moment, she'd suddenly suggest doing something with Mia, like going to the park or watching a movie. It was like she was avoiding being alone with me. Moving forward to our 7th anniversary party, the idea came to me months in advance. I wanted to do something special, something that would remind Emma of how much I loved her and bring us closer. Things had been weird between us lately, but I kept telling myself it was just a phase. A celebration might be exactly what we needed to shake off the tension. I decided to recreate one of our best memories, a weekend we'd spent at a vineyard in Sonoma back when we first started dating. It was one of those rare times we'd loose, laughing, drinking, and pretending we didn't have a care in the world. Emma loved it so much, she talked about going back for years. So, I figured it would be perfect. I rented a private space at a vineyard and worked with the staff to make everything just right. They helped me design a menu based on her favorite foods, and I hired a small jazz band to play her favorite songs. I invited close family and friends, including her best friend Clara, who had just moved back to California. Aaron, of course, was one of the first people I told. "Dude, this is perfect," he said when I shared the plan. "Emma's going to love it." He offered to help with the setup, which didn't surprise me. Aaron had a knack for making himself indispensable in situations like this. At the time, I thought he was just being a supportive brother. The night of the party, everything seemed to fall into place. Emma thought we were just going out for a quiet dinner, so when we arrived and everyone yelled, "Surprise!" she looked genuinely stunned. She hugged me tightly, her eyes sparkling with tears. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I'd done something right. The vineyard was beautiful, with twinkling string lights draped across the patio and candles flickering on every table. The jazz band was playing softly in the background, and the air smelled like lavender and fresh grapes. Emma kept saying how perfect everything was, how she couldn't believe I'd gone through all this trouble. For a little while, I actually believed we were happy. Dinner started off great. The food was incredible, and everyone seemed to be having a good time. Emma was seated between me and Clara, laughing and chatting like the stress of the past few months had melted away. Aaron sat across from us, raising his glass every chance he got and cracking jokes that had everyone at the table in stitches. Then Clara made her toast. To Emma and Josh, she started, smiling warmly. "You two are the kind of couple that reminds us all what real love looks like." And then, to Aaron, she hesitated for a second, her smile faltering just slightly. To Aaron, who's been such a rock for Emma these past couple of years. Her words hit me like a punch in the chest. I felt my stomach drop as I glanced at Emma, whose face had gone pale. She reached for her glass and took a long sip, avoiding my eyes. "What does she mean by that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. Emma set her glass down, forcing a smile. "Oh, Clara's just talking about how Aaron's been helping out with Mia and stuff. You know, with all my work stress, right, Clara?" she said, her voice tightening. "Helping," Clara repeated. The table fell uncomfortably silent. Aaron jumped in, laughing like nothing was wrong. "Come on, Clara, don't make it weird. You know I'm just doing what family does." Everyone chuckled awkwardly, and the conversation moved on, but the moment stuck with me. Emma barely spoke for the rest of the night, and Clara avoided making eye contact with me. Later, when I tried to bring it up on the drive home, Emma brushed it off. "You know how Clara is," she said, staring out the window. "She doesn't always think before she speaks." "Yeah, but what did she mean by Aaron's been such a rock for you?" I pressed. She sighed, clearly irritated. "Josh, it's nothing. Can we not ruin a perfect night with this?" I let it go, but the uneasiness lingered. The next morning, Clara called. "Hey, can we talk?" she asked, her voice tense. "Sure," I said, still groggy from the night before. "I shouldn't have said what I did at the party," she blurted out. "It wasn't my place, but, Josh, there's something you need to know." My stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" Clara hesitated, and for a moment I thought she might hang up. But then she said, "Can I come over? It's better if I show you." When she arrived, she looked nervous, clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. She handed me a small flash drive without saying a word. "What's this?" I asked. "Just look at it," she said. "It explains everything that's been going on between Aaron and Emma for years behind your back." Her voice was barely above a whisper. After Clara handed me that flash drive and left, I sat there for what felt like forever. I couldn't bring myself to open it, not right away. I paced the living room, laptop still open on the coffee table, wondering how I could have been so blind. A part of me didn't even want to know more. Ignorance felt safer, like maybe if I didn't look, it wouldn't all be real. But I couldn't just ignore it, not anymore. Finally, I sat back down, took a deep breath, and clicked on the first email. It was dated almost 2.5 years ago, just before Emma's first girls' trip. The subject line was simple: "Miss you." The message was worse than I expected. "Emma, I wish I could see you this weekend. This is getting harder to hide," Aaron wrote. "I know," Emma replied, "but it's worth it. You know that, right?" Josh doesn't have to know. I clenched my fists, my heart pounding in my chest. I told myself to keep going, to rip off the bandage no matter how much it hurt. The emails unfolded like some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. There were messages about how they'd meet up when I was at work, how Emma would use her business trips as an excuse to spend weekends with Aaron. They planned everything down to the smallest detail: cover stories, fake schedules, even how to handle questions from Clara or me if anything seemed suspicious. I didn't know whether to scream, throw my laptop across the room, or just sit there and take it. But then I clicked on another folder labeled Photos. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity, or maybe masochism, got me. The first few photos were harmless enough. Aaron and Emma at what looked like a beach house, laughing over drinks. But the longer I scrolled, the worse it got. Pictures of them in hotel robes, Emma lying on a bed in lingerie I'd never seen before, selfies of them kissing. And then I saw something that made my stomach drop. There were pictures of Aaron and Emma together, from over 7 years ago, long before we got married. Some were taken in college, back when Aaron was supposedly focused on building his real estate empire. One picture showed them at a park I recognized. It was the same park where Emma and I had our third date. My mind started racing. Had this been going on the whole time? Had she ever really loved me, or was I just a placeholder while she carried on with Aaron? Then I found the Facebook messages. The earliest ones were from right around the time Aaron introduced me to Emma. They talked about how it was the perfect plan. Aaron convinced Emma I was the safe choice, the stable, responsible older brother with a steady career, someone who could give her the life she wanted. One message from Aaron stood out like a slap in the face. "You'll have everything you need with Josh. He's predictable. I'm not, but I'll always be here for you." I slammed the laptop shut and stormed into the kitchen, needing to do something, anything, to stop the thoughts swirling in my head. I grabbed a glass of water, my hands trembling so badly I spilled half of it on the counter. I felt like my entire life had been a lie. My marriage, my relationship with Aaron, none of it was real. It was all some twisted game they'd been playing behind my back. But it wasn't just about me. What about Mia? What if she wasn't even mine? That thought hit me like a brick wall, and I nearly doubled over. I sat down at the kitchen table, my head in my hands, trying to figure out what to do next. Should I confront Emma, Aaron, both of them, or should I wait, gather more information, and make sure I had all the facts? As if on cue, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emma, running late. "Don't wait up, love you." The nerve of her, the audacity to send me that message while I sat here drowning in the truth of her lies. I wanted to call her right then and there, to scream at her and demand answers, but I stopped myself. If I lost my cool, she'd have time to spin some excuse, to try and manipulate the situation. Instead, I called Clara. She answered on the second ring, her voice cautious. "Josh, why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, my voice cracking. There was a long pause before she replied. "I didn't know how. I didn't even know if I should. Emma's been my best friend since college, but I couldn't keep lying for her, not after I saw the emails." "Lying for her?" I repeated, my jaw tightening. "She told me about the affair almost a year ago," Clara admitted. "She said she was ending it, that she just needed time to figure things out. But then I saw the flash drive on her desk one day, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to thank Clara for finally coming clean, but another part of me was furious that she'd kept this from me for so long." "What else do you know?" I asked finally. Clara hesitated again. "Josh, it's not just the affair. There's more. You should check into Aaron's business. I don't think it's as legit as he makes it out to be." I didn't even know how to process that. First my wife, now my brother's career? What else were they hiding? After we hung up, I sat in silence, trying to piece everything together. I knew I couldn't let this go. If Aaron's business was involved, that meant the betrayal ran even deeper than I'd imagined. I grabbed the laptop again, this time opening a new folder I'd overlooked earlier, financials. Inside, I found spreadsheets, invoices, and transaction records that didn't make any sense. Payments from Emma's event planning clients were being funneled into accounts linked to Aaron's real estate firm. Some of the documents were flagged with notes like transfer to offshore or split between accounts. It didn't take a genius to figure out what was going on. They weren't just having an affair, they were laundering money. I leaned back in my chair, completely numb. The betrayal wasn't just personal anymore, this was criminal. I knew then that I couldn't handle this alone. I needed to confront them, but I also needed help. This was bigger than just me now. I decided to confront Emma first. Aaron wasn't around, and I figured if I caught her off guard she might slip up. Besides, I needed to see her face when she tried to explain it all. I wanted to hear her say the words, to admit what she'd done. When she came home that evening, acting like everything was normal. I almost lost it right then and there. She dropped her bag by the door and gave me a quick smile. "Hey," she said casually, like she hadn't been lying to my face for years. "Emma," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "we need to talk." Her smile faltered. "Okay," she said, walking into the living room. She sat on the couch, tucking her legs underneath her like she always did. "What's up?" I stayed standing, too angry to sit. "I know about you and Aaron," I said, the words coming out harsher than I intended. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I thought she might actually deny it. But then she just looked down at her hands and whispered, "How did you find out?" That admission, those 4 simple words, felt like someone had just kicked me in the chest. No denial, no excuses, just a quiet confirmation. "I found the emails, the photos, everything," I said, my voice shaking. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, her voice breaking. It just happened. Don't give me that," I snapped. "This didn't just happen. You planned this, both of you. I read the messages. You've been lying to me from the start." She started crying then, big heaving sobs that made me want to punch a wall. "I never wanted to hurt you, Josh," she said. "I swear I didn't. I love you. You love me?" I laughed bitterly. "You don't destroy someone you love, Emma. You don't sleep with their brother and make jokes about how clueless they are." She didn't say anything, just kept crying into her hands. "And it's not just the affair," I continued. "You and Aaron, what were you doing with the money? I saw the files. Were you using your business to launder money for him?" Her head shot up then, her eyes wide. "I didn't know," she said quickly. "I didn't know what he was doing, I swear." "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice rising. "Not anymore. I have the evidence, Emma. You knew exactly what he was doing, and you helped him cover it up." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Josh, please, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I made a mistake, a horrible mistake, but I love you, and I love Mia. Can we try to fix this? Fix this?" The words felt like a slap in the face. How could she even say that after everything she'd done? "I don't even know who you are anymore," I said. "The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew, she wouldn't have done this. Not to me, not to her family." She didn't say anything after that, just sat there crying while I walked out of the room. I couldn't look at her anymore. The next morning I decided it was Aaron's turn. I didn't bother calling him first. I drove straight to his office, fueled by anger and adrenaline. When I walked in, his assistant greeted me with a bright smile. "Hi, Josh, here to see Aaron?" I didn't even answer, just pushed past her and into his office. Aaron was sitting at his desk, scrolling through his phone. When he looked up and saw me, his face went blank for a moment. Then he leaned back in his chair, giving me that cocky grin he always used to get out of trouble. "Josh," he said, spreading his arms like he was welcoming me to a family dinner. "What's up?" "You know damn well what's up," I said, slamming the door behind me. He sighed, setting his phone down. "Emma told you, huh?" "She didn't have to," I said. "I found the whole disgusting trail of lies you left behind." He didn't even flinch. "Josh, I'm sorry. I never meant for you to find out this way." "This way?" I shouted. "You're sorry I found out? That's what you're sorry about?" Aaron stood up, holding his hands out like he was trying to calm me down. "Look, I know this is bad, I cut him off. "You slept with my wife. You've been screwing her for years and you think bad even begins to cover it? What the hell is wrong with you?" He had the audacity to look offended. "Josh, it's not that simple. Emma and I, we have history." "History?" I spat. "You mean the history where you convinced her to marry me because I was the stable choice? The history where you used me as your safety net while you two carried on behind my back?" Aaron's face hardened then, the fake remorse gone. "You don't understand," he said. "You've always had everything, Josh. The career, the perfect family, the respect. Emma and I, we were real, but she needed stability, and you could give her that." His words hit me. "You used me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You used me to give her the life you couldn't." "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said, his voice softening again. "But Josh, you have to understand, Emma loves you too. She really does." I couldn't take it anymore. I turned and walked out of his office, ignoring his calls for me to come back. That night, as I sat alone in the living room, I realized there was no coming back from this. Emma and Aaron didn't just betray me. They destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life. And yet, a small nagging thought kept creeping into my mind. What about Mia? What if she wasn't even mine? I didn't want to believe it, but after everything I'd learned, I couldn't just brush it off. I decided then and there to get a paternity test. I needed the truth, no matter how much it hurt, because at this point, the lies had already done enough damage. The day I sent off the paternity test for Mia, I felt like I'd hit rock bottom. Waiting for the results was torture, but I couldn't sit around and do nothing in the meantime. Things at home were unbearable. Emma was still staying in the house, which made every interaction a ticking time bomb. She tiptoed around me like she was walking on glass, constantly asking if we could talk. I refused. I couldn't look at her without feeling a mix of rage and disgust. Mia, thankfully, seemed oblivious to the chaos. She was too young to understand what was happening, but every time she called me daddy or asked me to play with her, it tore me apart. I kept wondering, what if she's not mine? What if Aaron took that from me too? One night, Emma cornered me in the kitchen while Mia was asleep. "Josh," she said softly, blocking my path to the fridge, "I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but we need to figure out what we're going to do for Mia's sake." "For Mia's sake?" I snapped. "You didn't care about Mia's sake when you were sneaking around with Aaron. You didn't care about her when you were lying to me every day for 2 years or however long it's been." Emma flinched but didn't back down. "I made a mistake, okay? A huge, unforgivable mistake, but Mia doesn't deserve to lose both her parents over this." "Lose both her parents?" I laughed bitterly. "That's rich, coming from you. If she loses anyone, it'll be because of you and Aaron, not me." She started crying, but I didn't care. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving her standing there with her fake tears and her fake remorse. The next morning, I gathered all the evidence, the flash drive, and took it to the police. I didn't care what it meant for Emma or Aaron. They'd made their choices. Now they had to face the consequences. The officers I spoke to took me seriously right away. When I handed over the files, one of them raised an eyebrow. "This is big," he said. "We're going to need more details." Over the next few hours, I explained everything. How I discovered the affair, the financial records. By the time I left the station, I felt drained but oddly relieved. Later that day, the paternity test results arrived. My hands shook as I opened the envelope, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear myself think. The results were clear. Mia was mine. It was the first good news I'd had in what felt like forever. No matter what else Emma and Aaron had done, Mia was my daughter. That was one thing they couldn't take away from me. But the relief was short-lived. That evening, the police showed up at our house with a warrant. Emma was arrested on charges of money laundering and conspiracy. She sobbed as they led her away, begging me to believe she didn't know what Aaron was really doing. I didn't say a word. Aaron wasn't so lucky. He was arrested at his office later that week, along with 2 of his business partners. The divorce process was as grueling as you'd imagine. After Emma's arrest, I filed immediately. There was no point dragging it out. I knew there was no salvaging what was left of our marriage. Every meeting with my lawyer felt like reliving the nightmare all over again. We went through financial records, property disputes, custody arrangements, and more evidence of Emma's betrayal than I ever wanted to see. To her credit, or maybe out of guilt, Emma didn't fight me on most of it. Her lawyer reached out a few times, trying to negotiate some form of shared custody for Mia. But I shut that down instantly. With her legal troubles and the mess she'd made, there was no way I was going to let her have any influence over Mia's life. When we finally went to court, Emma barely spoke. Her lawyer argued that she was a first-time offender, and that her involvement in Aaron's schemes was limited, but it didn't matter much when it came to the divorce. The judge granted me full custody of Mia, citing Emma's criminal charges as evidence that she wasn't fit to parent. As for the financials, Emma's lawyer tried to argue that she deserved a portion of my assets since her business was tied up in Aaron's mess. That was laughable, considering her business had been used to launder money. The judge sided with me, leaving Emma with nothing but her legal battles to deal with. Now, it's been 6 months since my world turned upside down, and I still don't know how I've made it through. Emma's been out of the picture since her arrest. The last time I saw her was in court during one of the early hearings. She looked nothing like the woman I married. I didn't feel sorry for her, not anymore. It was just emptiness. She didn't look at me the entire time, and I wasn't about to make it easier for her. Her lawyer's been pushing for a plea deal, which doesn't surprise me. First-time offender, supposedly coerced by Aaron. It's the same song and dance. But even if she gets a lighter sentence, it's hard to imagine a world where she comes back into our lives after everything she's done. I don't see how she could. Aaron, on the other hand, is locked away with no sign of a deal. His fraud case blew up in the media after the police uncovered just how many people he scammed. Turns out, it wasn't just small-time clients. He'd been screwing over bigger investors, including some who had the power and resources to make sure he paid for it. Last I heard, he's facing at least 8 years behind bars. Good riddance. Mia is the one keeping me sane through all of this. She doesn't fully understand what's happened, but she knows things aren't the same. She stopped asking about Emma a couple of months ago, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. She's adjusted quicker than I expected. Emma's parents have been surprisingly supportive, which has been weird. I expected them to defend her or try to justify what she did, but instead, they've been apologizing nonstop. Her dad even offered to help with Mia's school tuition, saying it was the least they could do after what Emma put me through. She's still my daughter, he told me over the phone one night, but I can't defend what she did. I raised her better than this. Last week I decided it was time to sell the house. It's too big for just Mia and me. And honestly, I can't stand the memories tied to it anymore. As I write this, I'm sitting in the new house. There are boxes everywhere, and Mia is asleep upstairs in her new room. It's smaller than her old one, but she loves it because it has a little window seat where she can sit and read. For the first time in months, I feel hopeful. I'm not over what happened. I don't think I ever will be, but I'm learning to live with it, to move forward one step at a time. Emma and Aaron might have broken my trust, but they didn't break me, and as long as I have Mia, as long as I keep showing up for her, I know I'll be okay. Life isn't perfect, but it's mine, and for now, that's enough.